Alright. We're going to talk about some electrical theory today. Enough of this cooking jazz. Should probably turn my phone off. Okay, so how's everybody's day going? I'm going to talk about what really happens in a panel. Yes, Nin is here. What really happens in a panel? Okay, so we got our panel, right? We've got our two phases. We've got two phases in our panel. You might let me see that. Come on. Okay. We got a couple phases in our panel, right? I don't want to say phase. Phase is the wrong word. We have two feeds to our panel, right? We've got one here, one there, comes out. If you put your meter in between those, you get 240 volts. Roughly. Every house is going to be a little bit different because it depends on how far you are from the street, how far you are from a transformer, and there's, of course, is some voltage drop that's going to happen. So what we're going to do, we're just going to basically say it's 120 on each line, and then so between them it's going to be 240. It makes the easiest thing, right? So usually on the side here you've got your neutral comes in, right? Now in between your neutral here and each one of these phases, I keep saying phases, but I want to say line, there's going to be L1 and L2, line 1, line 2. And here is your neutral. Between your neutral line 1 and neutral line 2, it's going to be 120 volts. In between, it's going to be 240. Why? Because 120 plus 120. Pretty cool, right? And then, of course, hopefully over here, isolated off, you have your ground. Now, your ground is just for what purpose? The ground is just there so that if a lightning hits your house, it's not going to blow up every piece of electronic you've ever had in your life. It's the path of least resistance with the least ohmic value that any sort of surge in your house is going to go through so it doesn't destroy something in your house. That's what it's there for. So, we've got all these breakers in here, right? Some of them are doubles, some of them are single, and earth, ground. It's pretty quick there, Nin. Quick. We've got these coming out. to different areas. So to really talk about this, I'm going to put everything into just like a resistor. Because what resistor, you know, in our houses, our lights are resistors. TV is definitely a resistor. Anything that's producing electricity, you have to have a resistor inside that thing, or else with no resistance, your amperage goes up and up and up and up until something explodes. Usually, hopefully it's gonna trip your breaker, right? So I have this. Here is basically a panel, right? We've got 100 volts here. Here's L1, here's L2, and there's the neutral in between. But we call it, have you ever heard of the phrase multi-wire? That's what multi-wire means. It means it's a panel, has different, thank you so much for that, host, different, you have line 1, line 2, and the neutral in the middle. Now, this at the bottom represents something that is connected to both L1 and L2. So it's a two-pole breaker. So in your house, you might have a stove that's a two-pole breaker, a C unit. For Eternal, it's probably a swamp cooler because that's all our family can afford. It could be a dryer. And usually those are the things that it mostly is, unless you got a pool. I don't know if the above ground pool that Eternal has, well, she has a bucket. Anyway. So, I don't know why I'm just ripping on her. But yeah, any 220 volt appliance is going to be what we have here at the bottom, right? So let's look at, so these are just normal breakers with a resistor in it. So these 25 amps is going to represent, you know, so many lights down the line. Now this is just an example. Obviously, you're not going to have 25 amps on a single pole breaker in your house, because mainly those are only going to go to 20 amps. You don't want to go above that. So this is just for theoretical purposes, and we're just trying to understand the theory behind a panel. The biggest thing is we want to convert everything here on this paper to amps, right? So we have amps here. Now we got watts, 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 and we have resistance. That's what that symbol there means. Let's get in here nice and close. That is an ohmic value. That is what our resistance is. And of course we have watts here on the bottom. What you're going to use is you're going to use a power wheel. There's a giant power wheel for all the formulas for power. We're going to use two smaller versions of that. What we're going to use is we're going to use EIR. E is voltage, I is amperage, R is resistance. So volts, amps, resistance. And we're going to use PIE. Power, as in wattage, and amperage, and voltage. How you use these wheels is simple. You just put your finger over what you want to find. Let's say I want to find, well, right now I want to find my amperage. So I put my finger over here. If I have resistance and I have voltage, I can go E divided by R will give me I. If I want to find it here, I go P over E. So wattage over voltage will give me amperage right there. Similarly, if I want to get voltage, I put my thumb over the E and it's I times R. Amperage times resistance, that'll give me my voltage. Same here with power. Amperage times voltage will give us. Anyway, everything's proportional to each other. The only number in any of this that will never change is resistance. Resistance does not change. But if you have a different voltage, you'll have a different amperage. Higher the voltage, lower the amperage. Lower the voltage, higher the amperage. So, bring that down to here. We've got watts, 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 and watts, and then we've got resistance. So we're going to use the PIE. P being power. Let's put this over to the side, right? 150 watts over E. Now, anything that's connected from A to B is going to have this voltage. Anything connected from A to C will have the total voltage there, which you just add the two sides up, right? It's pretty simple. So down here, we're going to have 200 volts. So right here, we're trying to get 150. 150 divided by 200 volts, right? And that's where our friendly calculator comes in. 150 divided by 200, that will be our amperage for what is R3, resistor number 3, or branch circuit number 3. So 0.75 amps, okay? Same thing over here. We're going to go 75 watts over 200 amps. I messed up. Did you see me mess up there? I put the 200 volts, but that's just for down here. I should have done that to 100 volts. Man, I am so drunk. Okay, 150 divided by 100. I almost led you astray. I'm so sorry. Will you ever forgive me? All right. Now for R4, 75 divided by 100. That's the 0.75 we're looking for. This is amperage. Come on to this side. It's going to be 65 watts over 100 volts. 0.65. And this is the trickster. It's 110 ohms of resistance. So we're going to come up here and use the one for resistance. Now this is going to be voltage over resistance. So my voltage is 100 volts over a resistance of 110 ohms. All right? All right? So what I always do when it comes like to all this stuff, right? I just cut off at the third number after the decimal. I don't want to put all that crap in there. So I'm just going to put 0.909 and we're good. Now we can use the 200 volts. That's down here because this circuit is connected both A and C. So I'm going to take our, actually it's just right how it is right there. 2,900 watts divided by 200 volts. And when we get 14.5 amps right there. Okay. Now we have everything in amps. Let's see how this happens. So if you have your amp meter and you want to know what the amperage is at any of these points, this is how you find out. First, we want to find out what the total amperage on our first line is. See, a lot of people like to keep their panels as balanced as possible. That's because it takes less strain on your panel, which means less heat, which means that it's easier to actually to have your panel not break down. Hey, I got a call from Big Red. What's Big Red want? Hey, Big Red, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
I'm on stream. Everyone can hear you.
Hello.
What you need, buddy? What's going on?
Um,
Or is this something I should not broadcast?
yeah, you can broadcast this.
Okay.
Can you set up,
Nin says hi.
can you
Nothing.
set up, you know the server?
Yeah.
We need to do another server because I did something wrong. And since this is our last weekend here until we go to Utah, me and Josh wanted to, you know who Josh is,
Okay.
right?
I have no idea who Josh is. So you want next weekend you want to have the Minecraft server fixed?
Just like a new one?
Yeah, we can make a new one. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Okay, I'll look it up. Just
Okay,
this
next
weekend, or do you need it during the week?
Weekend.
Okay, we'll do it this weekend, buddy.
So, yeah. I'm guessing Nin is watching right now?
Yeah, Nin's watching.
Oh. Hi, Nin.
There he goes. He's finally said hi. All right, bud.
Oh, okay.
If you want to learn about electrical theory, you can watch the stream.
I'll join the stream.
Oh, thank you for your support.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go, Dad.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay. You are getting. Thank God, too. So what we need to do, we want to know how much is here and how much is here. We have to add up everything that's on that particular side. So we're going to start here at the bottom. This is connected to both A and C, so we need to add this all the way up for A. We add this all the way up for C. Just add the left side separate to the right side. Start that 14.5, which is already there on our calculator. 14.5, we're going to add, start going up the side, 0.75 plus 1.5 plus our last 25. So here at A, we have 41.75 amps total. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Start at the bottom. This is connected to A and C, so since it's connected to C, 14.5 plus 0.909 plus 0.65. On C, we have 16.059 amps. So what does the neutral do? Why do we have a neutral? The neutral in a panel is either going to give or take away amperage as needed if your circuit is unbalanced. This is definitely unbalanced because we have 41 amps on one side and 16 on the other, so it's going to be unbalanced. What's the neutral going to do? You can go A minus C or C minus A. I usually do C minus A. It depends on how the circuit is flowing at the time. So I always put polarity on each side. Now you wouldn't see polarity in a panel, not in AC current, alternate current goes both ways, and this will change from positive to negative to positive to negative. What I'm doing is let's say I freeze time. If I freeze time, one side has to push the power, the other side has to take that power. Exactly, 60 times per second. That's what, it's 60 hertz, which is 60 cycles per second. That's where you get the sine wave. We're going to talk about that later in a different one because we're going to start talking about reactants and inductors and capacitors. But I want to talk about this specifically first. We're going pure resistive until we get to that other stuff. So what we want to do is, since this is the negative and that's the positive, 16.05 amps is what's being pushed down this line. Okay? It's pushing down that line, and it's pushing through each of these circuits. And at the end, we're going to end up with 41.75. So that minus this will tell us what the neutral is going to do. We're going to go 16.059 minus 41.75. We're going to get a negative number. Now, the negative number does not matter. The only thing the negative number is telling us is that by the time we figure this whole thing out, the neutral should be taking that number, as in that's what's left over. It'll make sense in a second. So, negative 25.691. What I mean by the negative doesn't matter, if you put your meter on a panel, it's not going to read out a negative number. Doesn't work that way. But what it's telling me is what's happening with this. Okay? Actually, no, negative means it's got to come in. Oh, we'll get there though. So, how do I know, big red, what's going on? How do I know what's coming up through the neutral? What I like to do is I like to isolate it out in a separate drawing. So we have, at the very top, we have point B. Then coming down, we have this circuit, which has 25 amps on it. Then we have point E. We have another circuit which has 1.5 amps on it. Then point F. Then we have this circuit which has 0.65 amps on it. And then point I, 0.75 amps. And then the very last is that point K. It's over here, but it's the same line. I'll put it there. Now, what I did not put on... Okay. Thanks, Big Red, for your support. I did not put this stat on at all because this is not connected to the neutral. It's connected to points A, line 1, and C, line 2. It has nothing to do with point B or neutral, so I'm not going to put it on. So what we're going to see here, oh yeah, the last one was 0.909 amps. Since over here is our negative pushes, negative pushes while the positive receives. So essentially, this is all bringing into the neutral, this is all taking away from the neutral. So I will demonstrate that here by just adding these arrows. These are coming into the middle, these are going out of the middle. Pretty inventive, huh? So we're going to start at the bottom, make our way to the top. Our bottom number, so every one of these is positive, every one of these is negative because it's taking. You know, like in real life. So we're going to start with a positive 0.909 amps. And we are going to, my keypad going, 0.909. And so that's exactly what's here at point K. If we look at point K, 0.909 amps is going through here, going through point K. So point K is 0.909. Then we come up to this point. This point, we've got to take away 0.75 amps to satisfy this resistor right here. So we're going to minus 0.75 amps to that. What's left over is a positive number, 0.159 amps, and that is what you'll see at point I. Because whatever's left over has to come up through the neutral. It's got to go somewhere. It can't go all through here because this can only take 0.75 amps, right? Yeah, this is entry level for our program. So this comes up, I is 1. I know, it's not like I'm going through like the super hard stuff, but you know, you got to understand the theory of the panel before you can get to the good stuff, you know? Now we come up, that 0.159 comes up and it meets this point here. This is coming in, it's a positive number because it's adding 2. Oh no, no, this is what I teach in my freshman class. And we look at things a lot differently as electricians and how we have to approach theory. I didn't know if you meant it was too easy or if it was hard when you said entry-level class. I'm not going to say it's hard, it's just different. Yeah, like it's new, right? So this is coming in, this is a positive number, so we're going to add 0.65 amps to it. Our new number is 0.809 amps, and that comes up, and that's what our point F is. Point F. After point F, we got 2 big takeaways. See, these are negative number. So we get up to here. It's going to take away. So we got minus 1.5 amps. Now we have a negative number, 0.691 amps. We're going to put that at point E. What it means is everything right here, 0.809, everything's being used to cover the 1.5 amps. It doesn't have enough. So what's happening, because it's negative, is this is coming down the neutral. It's borrowing from the neutral, right? So how much do we have to borrow to complete 1.5? That's 0.691. Because 0.691 plus 0.809 makes 1.5. So now we have a negative number. We also have to take away another 25. Right? So we are going to minus 25 more. And that leaves us with point B, negative 25.691. Now, if you look at our original number, 16.059 minus 41.75, negative 25.691. That's how we got there. We went up the neutral, and we just minused the negative side. Well, we added the negative side and minused all the positive side, because this gives, this takes. What does that mean for our neutral? It just means our neutral is in high gear. It's probably really warm all the time, and more likely than not, the neutral is probably going to loosen up its screws way quicker than if you had a more balanced circuit, because it's so warm. When wires get warm, they expand, and then they cool off, they contract, and because of the unbalance, exactly. It's not balanced. You gotta have a balanced breakfast. So when we're looking at the rest of these points here, those are the hardest points to get. That's why I did those first. The rest of the points are pretty easy. I like unbalanced. I like unbalanced better. So let's do it. A, we have A, B, and C. We look at D. D is just underneath point A, right? So we can take all of A, 41.75, minus this branch because it's no longer there. I added. I don't know why. So 16.75 amps at point D. Same thing for 3. We're going to take this out of it, the 1.5 amps. So at point G, 15.25 minus the 0.75, and it leaves us with what we have here at the bottom. We know that's 14.5 amps. Same thing down here. We start at 16. No, you're good, dude. You're good. We got 16.059 minus 0.65. We get to 15.409 amps. Minus that 0.909, we end up at the 14.5, which is right here. So that is everything. So we're going to put all those points in our normal operation. 41.75 amps. Negative 25.691. Now, when I say negative, I really don't mean negative. I just mean that it's negative, meaning that the neutral has to give into the middle here for it to balance out, because it's such an imbalanced circuit. Because you'll never, ever actually get a negative number on your multimeter. Okay, C, 16.059. D, 16.75. I'm going to skip down to G and do the ones that are on this paper. Always label, always label. J is 15.409. And that's it. Now we're going to consult our other page here. E was negative 0.691, F 0.809, H, where's H? Oh, H is here. H is easy because it has to be whatever this resistor just used. And what did it just use? 0.65 amps. Same thing with K. K is right after the resistor, so it has to be 0.909 because that's what is being used on that branch. And our last is I 0.159. Okay? Now, what can happen in a circuit? Well, because this is so unbalanced, there's a good chance that maybe one of the neutrals is going to break free and it's going to cause problems. What's going to happen when it causes problems? Now this one, what if we had a break here at F? What happens to the circuit? This is what the circuit now looks like. This is easier when you have more teaching space. What you're going to have is you're going to have okay, now our circuit has a break right in the middle of that neutral. Because here's A, here's B, and here is C. Okay? E is still good. F is gone. H, D, G, L, all the good things. And we have I and we have K. And I believe there's one right here for J. Okay, here's our points. Now what's happened underneath that broken neutral? R1 and R2, or sorry, R3 is here. They are going to operate totally normal, totally fine, because they are connected to the neutral. The ones that don't now have a new amperage, and because they have a new amperage, we got to figure out what their, new voltage. We need to find out what their new amperage is going to be. Switch those around, because I'm a dum-dum. But what can we do? What did I say at the first that doesn't change, it's always constant? Is the resistance. The resistance is always going to be the same. So we need to find the resistance for these three circuits. Why not the bottom? Well, the bottom, we already know the number for, because before it was already connected to line 1 and line 2, or points A and C, so we're good. These are going to change. The only thing that doesn't change is resistance. We already know the resistance at R5. Let's put that in right there. 110 ohms. But now we got to find resistance for both R4 and R2. Let's start with R2. If we look at our power wheel, EIR, this is 0.65 amps when there's 100 volts going through it. So we have to use the same number as though it was normal working conditions. So we go E divided by I, so 100 volts divided by I, which is 0.65 amps, right? We have 153.846 ohms at R2. Let's add that right here. Now R4, same thing. There's 100 volts there, so 100 volts divided by that 0.75. It's 133.333 continuous. Let's put that in where R4 is at. Again, we're finding the resistance because the resistance never changes. It stays the same. So if we change the voltage, the amperage will change, but the resistance cannot. Now looking at this problem, like I said, R1 and R3 are fine. They're connected to the neutral. They're going to act as normal. The very bottom is going to act as normal. We already know that's 14.5 amps. It's these that are going to act abnormally. We're going to find out the new numbers for them. How do we do that? Well, if you look at this, if we take out the bottom, don't look at this, it doesn't matter anymore. If we look at the bottom, we have this going into that. And if you take the top out of it, that's actually a very simple combination circuit. Parallel going into a series. So let's do that. So here is our parallel. Sorry, there's our series going into our parallel. So this is going up to L1, that one's going up to L2. Now, how do we solve this? Well, you have to know how to solve for, let's see, how to solve for resistors when they are in parallel or series. You got to go with what is like each other. What's like each other in this? The parallel are like each other. So we got to do the parallel first. What's the formula to find the parallel when you put the, what we're going to do is put these together so that there's a new resistor in the middle with those together. Basically, because this is R2, this is R5, this will be R2, 5 together. The formula is 1 over 1 R1 plus 1 over 1 R2. The reciprocal of each resistor added together. Fun. So, I don't know if I can even do this on this stupid calculator. Let's see. Isn't there like a scientific? I need scientific. There we go. So what I need is the reciprocal. Okay, thank you. Is it going to really do this for me? 153. 0.846, the reciprocal of that, plus 110, the reciprocal of that, equals, and then we have to take the reciprocal of what we've just added together. And that equals 64.149. Again, I'm not going to put all those numbers down. That's psychotic. So now I have R4, which equals 133.333 continuous, and R2, 5 are two resistors in parallel that we just added together, which equals 64.149. That wasn't too bad. So we're going to go 64.149 plus 133.333 because when two resistors are in series with each other, they just add up. They add to 197.482. Okay, so Nin, yeah, you missed a little bit. So what I did was we're breaking this neutral at point F. Say the neutral is just unbalanced so much that it's finally broken. What happens to the circuit when we break the neutral? Well, the first two resistors are fine because they're connected to the neutral. Nothing happens. The very bottom is fine because it already is connected from A to C directly. So what we're left with is this little combination circuit where two parallel circuits are going into a series one. These in parallel, that in series. All I did was I just drew it out here what they would look like. I had to find their resistance, and I had to find their resistance while they were in working order. Because resistance doesn't change. Voltage and amperage will change, but not resistance. So if I know that this is the amperage here, I have to find my resistor when it was in normal operation, and that's how I got my resistor. So it's not a lot, just a little bit. So I added these two together using the parallel formula, which is 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. So the reciprocal of the resistors added together and the reciprocal of that. And then it got it so that we were in series, and series is easy because you just add these together. That's it. So now that I have my total resistance of this little circuit right here, I can put on the voltage, the new voltage to it. What's my new voltage? It's my voltage between A and C. So my voltage between A and C is just these two added up, so it's 200 volts. So I'm going to take this all the way down here. So this is my total resistance for my little circuit. I'm going to put my total voltage to it, which is 200 volts. Again, using my power wheel, voltage divided by resistance will give me my amperage. I want my total amperage. This is what I do. This is what I do every day. Every day. I can't get enough of it. I love doing it. So my amperage of this circuit is, of this little mini circuit I should say, is 1.012. Again, I'm only going to take that many numbers. So now it's 1.012. I have to go to the last drawing I made. My last drawing was these two in series. Now there's a few rules when you're talking about resistive or parallel circuit. In a in a series circuit, voltage adds up, which makes sense because they're in line with each other. You're going to have to add up the voltages to get your total voltage. The amperage stays the same. And the reason why the amperage stays the same is because if these two together, it can only have 1 amperage going through them. Like I said, this is the amperage that after these have used up the electricity is how much is pushing through. So if I have to push 1.012 through here, it's the same I got to do here. So that's how we do that. So now I want to know what my voltage is at each place. So I go to my power wheel, put my thumb over what I want to find, and I go I times R. Focus, you little bitch. I times R, so we just times those together. Pretty simple. I times R, 1.012 times 133.333. We get 134.932 volts here. So that's our E. Here's our I for 4. This will be our voltage for both 2 and 5. And this is our amperage for 2 and 5. Okay, so same thing over. 1.012 times 64.149. That gives us 64.918. Now, if I want to double check this, all I have to do is add the voltages together because that's the rule in series. Add the voltages together, she gives you your total voltage. 199.85, that's really close to 200 volts. I'm going to take it. We're good. Now, we're going to go to the next last drawing. So here was this drawing. We're going to go to this drawing. This guy is salt. It's right here. That's all the totals for this guy. We're going to take the totals here and bring it here. Now, the rule in parallel circuits is that voltage stays the same while amperage adds up. And the reason why is because whatever voltage is coming here on this side, this is like a wire nut here, the same voltage is going to be applied to both sides of that circuit. So we're going to take this 64 and put to each one of these guys. I know what you're thinking. How dare I assume the pronoun of these circuits? Well, they're powering fleshlights, so... Anyway, so let's go to 64.918. We're going to go E divided by R to get our I. We're going to get amperage at both of these places. Divided by 153.846. That's 0.421 amps for R2. So this is I2, so the amperage at 2. And then we're going to do 64.918 0.918 divided by 110. And that's 0.590. Might as well just not put the 0. And again, if I want to double check this, my amperage in a parallel circuit just adds up. So 0.59 plus 0.921. No, wait, is that a 4? I can't read my own writing, everybody. 0.59 plus 0.421. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a 4. I'm a dummy. Okay, yeah. So 1.01 and our amperage is 1.012. We're good. Now I can bring these amperages back up to our original drawing. Now remember, this is fine and this is fine. What we're going to have here are the new amperages. So 0.421 amps there, 0.59 amps, and 1.012 amps. Now when we bring in our circuit, same thing, it's going to come down this way, and it's going to go through here, then up this way. So it's kind of wonky, right? So what we're going to do, actually before that, we're going to get our totals. We're going to get our total A. Actually, we're going to go up the side. So 14.5, that's at L. We're going to add each circuit until we get to A. You have no theories? None of us have theories. 14.5 plus 1.012, the new amperage here. So our G is 15.512 amps. We add the 1.5 at R3, which is 17.012 amps. And then we add the last 25, 42.012 amps. Start at the bottom. We'll go up the right side this time, 14.5 plus 0.59. That gives us J, 15.09 amps, plus 0.421. So our new C, so our C went down a little and our A went up a little. You see that, right? Ooh, thought I almost lost the stream there for a second. But this is why things start exploding inside of electronics, or will heat up and finally melt, because there's too much voltage. It changes the amperage, and it's not supposed to take that much amperage. If you think about electronics and how we know them today, the capacitors are in there that can only take a certain amperage, can only take a certain voltage, and if you change that over time, it will start melting. That's why it's bad when you lose a neutral inside your house. This is what's going to happen. So now we're going to go up through the middle. And then the middle is totally different now. The middle looks like this. Well, actually, I can do it on this paper. The middle there's B, there's E, there's no more F, F is gone. Then we have I and we have K here. What do we have bringing? This was 0.59 amps, if I remember right. 0.491? 421. I was close. And 1.012 amps. 1.5 amps and 25 amps. Okay? Woo. All right. Oh, yeah. Uninterrupted power supply. Faux show. So this is pretty easy. Start at the bottom. 0.59. It's a positive number, right? Positive number, and we're going to minus it by that 1.012 amps, because that's what it's going out to. What should be left over, you think? Let's see. we've got 0.59 minus 1.012. What we have left over, I added them because I'm an idiot. I just love adding. I'm a positive person. 0.59 minus 1.012. We've got basically what's coming out from the top. And that's how we check that. This, whatever's left over, I has to be whatever this has been used, whatever's been used here in this resistor. So 0.422 is I, K is 0.59. That's it. Now, holy cow, Council Man in with the electrical theory. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, dude. You're an amazing person. You know that. The hat's all around. Hat's all around. Now, what happens at E and B? Well, again, this is being taken away. How much do we need for this circuit right here? Well, we need 1.5 amps. And what do we need for both of those circuits? Well, 26.5 amps. These are both negative numbers, by the way, because the neutral is taking those away. So let's double check that. Let's come back to our lovely circuit. How do we double check our B? Remember, this is the negative side. This is the positive side. Like we froze time. We're not using alternate current, but we're just going, okay, this is what's happening. One side is supplying, one side is returning. We have to take the supply side minus by the return side. So let's go. Can you tell I get real animated when I'm teaching? This is me sitting down at home, getting excited over electrical theory. 15.511 minus 42.012 gives us a negative 26.501. What did we find out over here? It was negative 26.5. So I would call that very good. That's a very good thing, right? Super electric. So I know my numbers are good. Overnights, how you doing, buddy? So my numbers are good. But this is what's happening when you don't, if you're missing a neutral. Your neutral is the thing that's balancing your imbalanced circuitry inside your panel. You lose it somewhere down the line, it's going to change all the voltages, which changes the amperages, which that's when things go plow. Not immediately. It could, though, depending on how badly imbalanced your panel may or may not be. Any questions, class? So tomorrow, I only want to do these for an hour, and we're hitting that hour. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about inductive reactants, capacitive reactants, and how they react within a circuit and how we can control the power factor that it creates. I've been your host, Professor Willard. Let's find somebody that we can raid. Well, who should we raid? Anyway, this has been a lot of fun, and I can't believe I'm at 10 viewers with just electrical theory, but I really love this. This is my favorite stuff in the world to do. Holy shnikes. Thank you, Nin. Nin, you're the best. You're so good. And everybody gets some emails. It's awesome. So, who shall we raid? I think Mr. Quebs. I like Quebs. Don't we? Don't we all? I think I'm pretty much going to do this all week, if I'm being totally honest with you. I really enjoyed this. The weekends will be with, you can tell I got my laptop with everything. The weekends will always be the cooking stream with Big Red and Frizzy. During the week, during the winter break, I got to get teaching out of me because it's all I do. It's all I want to do. So We're going to talk about some cool stuff. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's raid. If I can spell. I can't spell. Never mind, we're going to raid Feral instead. Okay. What are you going to do? I can't spell. I'm an idiot. Thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow, same time, 4:30, we're going to talk about some reactants. I'm going to tell you how you're losing money in your home and how to correct it. Love y'all.